This is the Destroying Sports and Political Podcast. NBA draft, immigration tie-up. So many things to get into today. So many things. You know, it's so interesting. When we talk about the NBA, everyone thinks now that there are going to be stars littered all over this league. Here's what I will tell you. There isn't, there won't be, there's a reason why. There are more stars, I will say this, and I put this in my column. There's a better opportunity for teams to find stars now because the demographics of the league, because of the one and done rule, because of the training methods, because of the fact that the game is becoming more skilled. It's not just that you're big, strong, and fast. You have to be able to do certain things. You have to have post moves. You have to shoot. And you'd think that'd be less inclusive. But in a sense, it's more inclusive because the power forward now doesn't have to be 6'10", 260. They can be 6'8", 220, but can shoot the ball. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's positionless basketball, which produces more skilled players, but can also include a lot of different types of players because in like a traditional basketball system, you have a 7-foot guy. And then you have a bunch of 6'2", 6'3", maybe 6'6" shooting guard. You have a power forward that can't play beyond 10 feet. That's the traditional way to play basketball. And that doesn't exist anymore. You can have 6'8", 220 guys that can move around the floor. LeBron's 260, but like, he's one of the best, if not the best examples of a positionless player. So yes, I do believe that teams have a better chance of picking stars now. Again, the league is getting younger, so it's not as risky to take a younger player and like bet on them because your stars are going to be younger. And it's going to continue like that because of the one and done era. Because of the training, because you can get access to it outside of the great institutions. You don't have to go to a proper high school to do it. You can get strong with your dad in the gym at 5 in the morning. That's what Zion Williamson did. He plays for a small private school named Spartansburg in South Carolina. No one has heard of it before. He got big and strong and fast through private workouts. I mean, this is not obviously in the NBA things are more personalized, but anyone can get big, strong, and fast now. And shooting the ball, it's not this. Obviously, it's a coveted thing, but there's no secret to how to do it. So anyone can do those things. It's just that this year's draft, I feel like, is an outlier. I believe this year's draft in ways is going to mirror last year's draft. Because I sincerely believe this. Okay? There are two really good players at the top. Two. I don't know if they're great. I know they're very good. I know they can be great. Well, you know what? I'll give you this. One player that I think can be great in the league. But I think he'll be a liability at some points. There's one player that I think can be very good, and that I also think can be great, but he's got to develop some things first. The one player I believe he has just got to be he's got to apply his athleticism that he already has more. But I believe that there are two players that can be great. One that I give a shot to be very, very, like, incredibly good player. The other player, and I'll get to this in a moment, needs to develop some things. However, I think the best players, at least the highest floor, they'll be in the bottom portion of the first round. There are many risks in this draft, and I don't know how someone in their right mind would risk their friend. Obviously, certain risks are worth the reward, but there are a lot of risks in this draft, lots of them. And if I were an NBA team, if I were an NBA owner, I wouldn't do that. Anyway, let's get straight to it. The two surefire players to me, Doncic and Ayton, at the top of the draft. Doncic will be very good, whether or not he maximizes his potential. Let me say this. Doncic, to me, is a player that, just stop comparing him to Dirk Nowitzki, okay? He's not the next Dirk Nowitzki. He's a different type of player than what Dirk Nowitzki was. Dirk Nowitzki didn't play in a rhythm. He was kind of a rhythm breaker, which is why he really didn't translate that much to championship success, but he's still an all-time great. What Luka Doncic needs, okay, here's what he is. He's a guy that can shoot from anywhere. He's tall, he has some bulk to him, and he's a great passer. He's a great passer. That's all I've heard and what I've seen of him. Okay, I will also say this. This is where I think it is risky. The guy averaged 15 points in EuroLeague. This year, total, he's averaged 9.2 points. He averages 5 assists a game, which I think are very valuable for him not being a point guard. I don't think he should be a point guard. I think he should be a 2. Free throw percentage, fine. He shoots 30.9 from 3. He shot 30.9 from 3 this year. Okay. He shot 34.7% from 3 last year. I think he's a great shooter. He can make tough shots. Don't get me wrong, he's great from the free throw line. But again, looking at the stats now, they're telling me something different. Everybody's telling me this kid is amazing. 15 points, Take away 5 when you go to the NBA, always. Do that with LeBron, do that with Kevin Durant, do that with Magic Johnson. The only player you don't have to do that with is Mike. Michael Jordan is the greatest player in the history of basketball, from start to finish. And obviously, from start to finish, LeBron, and he's not finished yet, is comparable. Even Shaq. Right, Shaq's first year, he was great. But I mean, these are 2 to 3 guys that I feel are the outliers. You take, even LeBron, as I've said, you take away 5 points from their college averages. You take away 5 points from their college averages, and then that's what their rookie year is. Okay. They are not. Okay, Luka Doncic, 15 points. 10 points a game at best. First year in the NBA. 31 from 3, 35 from 3 with extended attempts. I don't really like that. Obviously, his shooting is fine. It's not bad. But I really don't like those numbers. He shot 35.7 this year. He wasn't so great. The numbers are telling me he's not that great of a shooter, actually. The highlights I've seen say that he is. 46 in the regular season, 43 in the postseason. Averaged 9.2 points total in his career in EuroLeague. 15 this year. I'll give him this, 21 points in the postseason. This year, in the playoffs, he averaged 11 points per game. This year, for their team. Plays 26 minutes a game. Again, he's not big. He's a decent passer. He has skill. He can shoot it. He's not very athletic. I haven't seen him blow by people with a dribble. He's a rhythm player. He can't stand in the post, get the ball, throw it up there. Unlike a LeBron. Obviously, LeBron is not the greatest shooter. Unlike a LeBron, unlike a Durant. I'm just saying guys that can score from the post up without a rhythm dribble. Doncic, to me, I'm looking at the numbers. It doesn't impress me. I haven't looked at the numbers before. The highlights are definitely impressive. But the numbers never lie. You can't average 6 points per game in the playoffs in EuroLeague and 9 points per game in the regular season in EuroLeague for your career. Even if you take his 2 extended years, 1 year 8 points, the other year 15. That's 11.5 points per game. Even this year, 15 points, not great. Playoffs, 11, not great. So he's not great in the he's not great in the second best league in the world. And we're saying that he's the next Euro star. I think it's ridiculous. He lacks athleticism. Well, I guess Porzingis, but you have to factor in his minutes played. Porzingis only played 21 games, 21 minutes per game in the EuroLeague. What about Luka Doncic? Luka Doncic, I believe, was what was his minutes per game in the EuroLeague? Just give me a minute, I'll find this. Minutes per game in the EuroLeague. 25, 20 in the playoffs, 26. Again, the stats are comparable, but Kristaps was a much better shooter at that time. Wasn't great at the free throw line. He's really improved his free throw shooting. But what I'm trying to say is Porzingis shot the ball better than Doncic. The stats bear it out. He's not a better free throw shooter, but he's a better 3-point shooter. He's got a much better field goal percentage. Comparable stats with Doncic in terms of last year in the EuroLeague. But let's look at his playoff numbers. Only had 1 year in the playoffs. So, 8.3 points per game. Again, Porzingis is a more athletic, better shooter and he definitely improved his free throw shooting, which is something you can obviously improve. So all I'm trying to say is this: pump the brakes on Doncic. His playmaking, while it is great, I think it'll be handicapped. Porzingis shoots much better than Doncic does now. Not to say that he can't improve, but still. I guess in Europe, the points per game numbers don't really translate as much. But he can't shoot like Porzingis. I believe his playmaking will be limited. Kristaps doesn't have a. Porzingis can take you off the dribble, but again, he's not this pass first type of guy. He's not a playmaker. He can make certain plays, but his strength is taking bigs off the dribble because of speed. It's not his physical prowess. It's because he can shoot and get to the rack. So again, Doncic has things to improve. Ayton improve on the defensive end, but I think he can definitely be a great player. I don't buy into Bagley. He has no post moves. He was very active on offense. The activeness and the fact that he's small, I think he'll get bigger, but he's small. He's about 50 pounds smaller than DeAndre Ayton. He'll get pushed around if he doesn't get bigger. He's got to develop a post game. He can give you that little mid hook, but that's about it. And his jump shooting. His jump shooting is something I don't trust either. I don't trust Ayton from 3, but at least he's relatively consistent. At least he's relatively consistent. I don't think... I don't like Bagley's shot. Bagley didn't take that many threes. Barely took a 3 a game. He took it in limited attempts. I want to see what DeAndre Ayton did per game. But for some reason, I like Ayton's shot more because he can score from a lot of different places. He's very consistent, and he's got post moves, and he's big. He doesn't have to get bigger. A lot of times you see guys focus their first 5 years on getting bigger. Ayton doesn't have to do that. He's a 2011 guy that I believe can translate to the NBA immediately because of his size, because he can shoot, because he has post moves. Sorry, Bagley's a better three-point shooter than Ayton. But again, I really don't like Bagley's shot that much. He doesn't have a post move, isn't very big. I haven't bought in. Really haven't bought in. What did he do against Michigan State? Name me the best big guy out of North Carolina. Theo Pinson? Luke May? Kennedy Meeks? No one's heard of those guys in the league. Obviously, one could get drafted this year. But these guys aren't prototypical star big guys. Let's be real about this. Okay, Bagley, his free throw percentage was 62.7. I'd buy more into your free throw than your 3-point percentage if you're a big guy and that plays in the post. I don't like what I'm seeing from Bagley. Not a great free throw shooter. Has a relatively okay jump shot. Doesn't have post moves. It doesn't have an NBA body. Now here's what I'll give him this. He may be a better player in terms of two-way player because his lack of girth allows him to defend better. And I don't think Bagley will be a bust. I think he's like a 12-10, 15-10 guy. But he doesn't have great post moves. Doesn't have a great jump shot. Doesn't have a great free throw. Really, his points were on hustle plays, being bigger than everybody else in college. He didn't really play any great big men in college. All right, let's look at one of the biggest teams that he played against, Kansas. I believe he scored 2 points in that Elite 8 game. .2 Grayson Allen dominated against Michigan State. He hasn't really played well against big teams, and he's not as skilled as I believe Ayton is. So Bagley will be a fine player, but I don't think he'll be that good, or a great player for that matter. Who do I believe is going to bust? I don't like Wendell Carter. Everyone tells me about Wendell Carter, how he's so great. Again, even with Ayton, I'm not big into the jump shot because he's not reliant on it. He's good enough with it, but he can shoot a free throw. He can shoot a free throw, and he has post moves. Does Wendell Carter have post moves? And granted, they could have all improved. Carter has a good free throw percentage. Not a great passer out of the post. Neither are all of these guys, actually. Ayton, in order to be truly great, he's got to be able to pass the ball better. He's got to improve his shot. I didn't think Karl Anthony Towns would have the shot he did, but again, I don't consider him that great of a player. Ayton is more refined than all these other guys. He scores better. He scores more. He can shoot free throws. He rebounds. He's relatively fast. He can't switch out on defense. But I think he's way more skilled than Bagley offensively. And defensively, he comes up short, but he's capable. So again, I think Ayton's the best big out of the bunch. You know, the absolute bust is going to be Mo Bamba. Mo Bamba can't shoot. I don't buy the shooting videos. Wide open shots. I don't buy that. What is he, 210 pounds? He's skinny. He's lanky. He's got to develop a body, sure. But even if he does, is he going to be strong enough to play in the low post? That's my issue with Bagley as well. Doesn't score that much. And trust me, Carter's averages 14. Bamba averages 13. Those are different types of points. Carter is a more skilled player than Bamba. Bamba gets them on drop-offs and lobs. He's a 27% three-point shooter. That's a 19-foot jump shot in the NBA. If he shoots 27% from the mid-range, what do you expect him to do from three? Stop comparing him to Joel Embiid. He can't switch out on big guys. He has weak lateral quickness. Sure, he can run a 3/4 quarter sprint, But lateral quickness is what matters to me when you're a big. He'll run down the floor, get drop-offs. It's developed more of a post-game. But unless I see the jump shot, I'm not going to believe it. Unless I see it in game action. Not great from the free throw line. Bamba is going to be a bust. And see, this is the thing with Bamba. Wicked smart. Everyone says that. And I don't take that away from the guy. But here's my opinion. He's a very politically involved person. Healthcare, education, housing should be a right. I'm not going to address his politics. I believe that everyone that's seen my podcast knows how I feel about those type of things. I'm not going to get into it. He's a smart guy. He's gotten into Harvard. But here's my opinion. Politically involved guys get distracted. Especially in a place right now where we are so polarized, where our president is so polarizing. Political guys get distracted. Look at what happened to the Seattle Seahawks. Look at what happened to them. They got all political. They're not great anymore because they care about this more than they do football. And that's not a bad thing. You can care about whatever you want. But here's the deal. When you're a person that cares about things outside of basketball, that's fine. Here's why I question whether it affects your craft. Is because when you have things to develop, I disagree with LeBron's politics. But he is the most complete player we have ever seen in the history of the sport. Yeah, he cares about social causes, but he works on his game. He wakes up at 4 or 5 a.m., works on his game. Bamba's got a lot to improve on. And I know he's interested in other things. The reason why I'm not worried about Josh Rosen is because I know he's smart. I know he can throw a great football. I know he's got pocket awareness. But seriously, guys, that should be a factor here. Again, the players that I do like in this draft, Kevin Knox, Dante DiVincenzo, Grayson Allen, Jaren Jackson, they're Mikal Bridges. I like Miles Bridges. His lack of assertiveness scares me. He can drift out. That scares me. But he's a competitive guy that can shoot the ball. He can shoot it really well. Mid-range three-point, NBA three-point. Plays the game well. Doesn't take too many ill-advised shots. Plays within the system. I like Miles, Mikal Bridges. Though I would take Mikal Bridges over Miles because Mikal seems more aggressive on a nightly basis. If Miles can get a bit of alpha, he's going to be a monster. He's one of those guys that's fallen because he stayed at Michigan State, and they really didn't do anything in the tournament. And he's really not the biggest guy in the world, but he's strong, and he can shoot, and he's coachable, and he can play within a system. Miles Bridges, at the very least, will be a very good player. I just think because he's so skilled, and he really doesn't lack anything. He's one of the few players that doesn't lack anything. He may be the only player that doesn't lack anything. Can play defense, can shoot the ball, can rim protect, athletic, can dribble it, mid-range, plays within the system, passes the ball, coachable, everything. But Miles Bridges drifts in periods. And that could keep him from becoming his true potential. But he's one of the highest floor guys. I like those guys. The high floor guys. I like them. Another guy I like, I've already said that I like Bridges out of Villanova. Another guy I like, Kevin Knox. Now, he can't create his own shot off the dribble, but off of post-ups, off of catch and shoots, deadly. Great shooter, big body, can play physical. I believe that body can help him defensively as well. He played in the wrong system in Kentucky. Kentucky didn't give him the ball because they had 10 guys that were 5-star recruits. He's not quite Jason Tatum. But if he can develop a handle, he can be close to it. Dante DiVincenzo, big, can dribble, can shoot, gets to the rim, athletic. If he develops, how good is he? I believe he can be a starter. I see the potential for day one starter. I just don't know if the one game we saw in the national championship was an aberration. But again, very skilled player. And translates to this game perfectly. Grayson Allen can dribble, can shoot, can defend, tenacious defender, played the point guard last year, can run an offense. And he's filled out. He's a filled out basketball player. Grayson Allen is going to be a really good player for a really long time. And he's athletic too. I think Grayson Allen may be a star in this league. DiVincenzo may have been a one-hit wonder. Grayson Allen and Miles Bridges, I believe, can be a star in this league. Kevin Knox, when I watched him, he was a bit inconsistent with his shot. His body language wasn't great either. I don't know how great of a leader he can be. But Bridges is a great leader. Allen is a great leader. You can talk about the tripping all you want, but he's a great leader. He's got the physical packages. Duke just plays in a center-dominant type of system. That's where he got screwed. He could have averaged 25, 28 points, been a top 10 pick in last year's draft. Could have been in this year's too if they played in a system catered for him. I love Jaren Jackson. I love him. I've seen him. He can shoot the ball. He's big. He's physical. Valuable asset. And if he grows, he can become a star. in terms of physically. But he's one of those high ceiling type of players. Kevin Knox, shooting inconsistencies, but in general is a great shooter. So I give him a high floor too. Now it comes to the point guard position. I'm not big on bigs. I like guys that can shoot, that have some muscle, and that have relative height. Point guards, Trae Young is not Steph Curry. Please stop telling me he's Steph Curry. He shot 36% from the three-point line. Wildly inconsistent. Not that athletic. Couldn't blow by guys. Doesn't have a great handle. Got worn down physically. Now I think that'll improve. Defensive liability. Small. Okay. And doesn't have the type of speed that Steph Curry has. He's not Steph Curry. I think he'll be a good player, but he's a risk because he's a high turnover machine. That his assists are more like Russell Westbrook assists most times. Like, he's a good passer, but he's very ball dominant in the sense that, like, he can hoard the ball and his assists don't mean much sometimes. So he's a risk, especially on a team where he's the man. He's a fine shooter, but he's not Steph Curry. He definitely needs to improve there. Definitely needs to improve with his shooting and his shot selection. Erratic shot selection, erratic ball handling. I don't know if teams will like him generally because of I don't think teams will like him generally because he's erratic on all facets. Erratic shooter, erratic ball handler, erratic passer. He's a very good shooter. He's a very good passer. For college, but he's got to improve. He's got to improve in all these facets. He's not Steph Curry because he's not big and he's not athletic. He's not strong enough and he's not fast enough and he doesn't have the dribble. He's a comparable shooter, but he's a great shooter for college. He'll be a good shooter in the NBA. But he's not Steph Curry. And he has bust potential because of his erratic tendencies. And let's remember, he was in Oklahoma when they expected nothing from him. Imagine New York, with New York media, with expectations combined with Kristaps Porzingis. They already drafted a point guard in Frank Nicolina. This is a risk. Colin Sexton, very fast, very quick, can't shoot. Can't shoot. He's De'Aaron Fox. That's what he is. De'Aaron Fox with a lesser jump shot. I don't know what people love about this kid. He's De'Aaron Fox with a lesser jump shot. I mean, seriously. And because he's not that big, because he's not that strong, he's not like Russell Westbrook. Please stop saying that he's Russell Westbrook. His absolute ceiling is Russell Westbrook. If everything goes right and he develops a relatively below average jumper, he's Russell Westbrook, and he gets tons of muscle. He's Russell Westbrook. Please don't tell me Colin Sexton is the next Russell Westbrook. Gilgeous-Alexander, he is the guy I like the most because he played within a system. He could shoot the ball effectively from all areas of the floor. And he obviously can play within the system. He's a good distributor. He's a good point guard. I really like Gilgeous-Alexander. And the fact that he's taller than all those guys helps him when he finishes, helps him see over the defense. He can actually post up as a point guard, similar to what Russell Westbrook does. He's a fine shooter. And he's a good runner of the offense. I think Gilgeous-Alexander, again, I don't think he's athletic enough to be a special player, but he'll be a really good one. I think he has a higher floor than Trae Young or Colin Sexton. And I'm a big Trae Young fan. I hope he works. But he's a risk. Sexton is a risk no matter what. But Gilgeous-Alexander can play the right way. The Kentucky guys, man, they know how to play within a team because they play with stars. Kentucky guys are physically dominant, skilled, and because they play within a team, can translate to the NBA. Are coachable, can do things. They're better athletically. They have roles. They know their roles. And they do them well. Very good players out of Kentucky. But anyway, there's a lot of guys, and Jackson will be a lottery pick, but he's not a top 5 pick. He's not a top 5 pick. Jackson and Ayton are the guys I really like at the top. Not just I like, but Bamba, Bagley, Carter, Porter Jr. Everyone says he can shoot. I need to see him in the NBA. He has an injury. He's barely played in college. He committed because his dad coaches there. I want to see how he does. I want to see how he handles things emotionally as a teammate. I don't buy the Porter Jr. thing, man. I don't buy it. I don't buy Bagley. Ayton's got his flaws, but he is the best of the top guys. I can't believe Jackson wouldn't be a top 5 pick. Wendell Carter, Marvin Bagley, Mo Bamba over Jaren Jackson. Jaren Jackson, I believe, I said he's a sleeper guy because he should be a top 3 pick. It's a travesty if he isn't a top 5 pick, but he won't be. He should be top 3, should definitely be top 5. So he's one of those guys that's going to drop out of the top 5. Because all everybody's been talking about are the big physical freaks. But he's the most skilled, relative physical freak out of all of them. Anyway, Croatia up 1-0 against Argentina. Is this the last World Cup Messi plays? I'll get into that tomorrow based on this result. But I think we all know who the best player in the world is. This is the Ashish and Ryan Sports and Political Podcast. We'll get into some breaking news next regarding the immigration deal and why It's a happy day and it's a sad day for our country. This is the Keep Ryan Sports Political Podcast, coming to you live from Hilliard, Ohio.